Welcome to another segment of Views from Bridge. My name is Barbara Clarice, and I am pleased to be your host for today. Now, this is the time of year when wellness, especially physical wellness, is top of mind. Most of us start off the year with a plan and, well, with good intentions of sticking to that plan. But as you know, life happens and, well, we soon get caught up in the busyness of our daily lives and businesses. So this is why I am super excited to welcome our guest, Carl Ficks Jr. Now, Carl is the founder of No Surrender LLC. He helps busy professionals reclaim their wellness. His Fix system is a proven roadmap for endurance athletes and weekend warriors alike. His weekly LinkedIn posts and bi-weekly newspaper columns, both titled The Friday Fix, provide strategies, tools, and inspiration to stay resourceful and resilient. Attorney Ficks, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for having me. I am very much looking forward to our conversation, and I would like to thank Deanna Crooks, who's a friend, and she's on your board, and she was gracious enough to connect the two of us. So thanks to everyone at the Greater Hartford Association of Realtors.
Great, thank you. Now, when I hear No Surrender, I kind of have to feel like there might be some story behind it. What's the genesis of No Surrender LLC?
Sure. I started practicing law in 1988, and I practiced law in both New Britain and Hartford for over 30 years. But when I was in law school, I was down in Washington, D.C., and my first 2 years of law school, I rode the city bus to the campus. And at that time, Bruce Springsteen's album, Born in the USA, had come out. And suffice it to say, there were a few days on that bus heading to law school where I just wanted to quit and pack it in. But I had a Walkman way before these fancy AirPods, and Springsteen was looping in my head. And one of the songs on Born in the USA was No Surrender. And that was a very big part of my life and part of me getting through law school. So I decided, I started this company in May of 2021, last year. And I decided to pay homage to that song because that was part of my journey. It got me to where I am today. Thus the name No Surrender.
Love it, love it. Now, you said attorney. You were actually a litigator for 30 plus years. Now, how does one go from litigating to wellness? And that.
Sure. I have always been a very competitive person. I played sports as a kid. I played sports in high school. I played sports in college. And it's always been a common denominator, and fitness as well. One of the reasons I went into litigation, the law is litigation or transactional, basically two sides of the house. Litigation most closely mimicked the competitions that I loved to engage in when I was younger, the athletic competitions. I saw litigation as an extension of a baseball game or a football game or a long run. So that's what I did. And during my career, I had embedded or built in a fitness component to allow me to get through very long days and very long weeks. That's not unique to the legal profession. Everybody works very long hours. And in order to put those hours in, I had a morning fitness component. And my passion for that, I connected it with how can I help others do that so they can be both resourceful and resilient, regardless of what comes at you. Like, for instance, a pandemic, which nobody expected and is now, we're on 2 years now.
Right, absolutely. Now, you talk about being busy, and I know you could definitely relate as a litigator. We're talking to realtors. Now, some of us live in our car practically. We eat in our car. We're going through drive-throughs. How can a busy realtor who already has so much and is trying to juggle so much fit a workout routine into our daily schedules?
Well, you just used the word schedule. The fitness routine needs to be put on the schedule. And I get the whole busy in the car thing. In fact, I was just joking with somebody. I wrote a post last week about a car I bought out of law school, an old Saab, and it was a disaster. But I was trading texts with a guy. It was a 5-speed, and I found it hard with my 5-speed to eat while I was running from courthouse to courthouse. So I understand completely being in your car, running from appointment to showing to appointment to a showing to a closing. I get that. It needs to be on the schedule because brokers are in service to others. They are in service. And in order to be in service, you have to be vertical, you have to be healthy. Because if you're offline, everything stops. So scheduling it is critically important. And you can get a really good 20-minute workout. And here's the best example. People are willing to stand in line. Unless you have the Starbucks app, you're going to be in line at Starbucks. And if you're in line at Starbucks, chances are you're going to be waiting. You may wait up to 20 minutes to get your coffee. You can do a great workout in just 20 minutes. So to me, it's a bit of a paradox that somebody would want that coffee so badly that they'd forego just a tiny little workout. And 20 minutes a couple days a week will really get your mind right. So I'm a big guy big scheduler, and I also like to do it in the morning for a lot of reasons. And one of them is, as you know, the day can go sideways. You have a punch list of things you want to do, and you're on item 1, and before you get to 2, a client is in crisis and you need to respond. Or the home inspection came in and the furnace that you thought was good, in fact, is not good. And now the buyer wants to walk and you've got a little code red on your hands. If you've done your workout in the morning, you've banked it, you own it, nobody can take it from you. So I'm a big morning workout person because of that, among other things.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm the same because like you said, by the end of the day, I am exhausted. And the last thing I'm thinking about is going into a gym or doing any form of workout. So I like getting it done early, 5 o'clock, 5:30, and I'm done. So I'm the
I
same
agree.
when it goes to
And
that.
I've found, Barbara, that when I do these workouts in the morning, I would have such clarity when I would head into the office. There was a joke in my law firm. I would go in and I'd go into a partner's office and I'd say, hey, I had this idea. And the partner would roll their eyes and say, oh, so you worked out this morning. I get most of my ideas when I'm working out in the morning. It allows me to process things and kind of put them in order and triage them, and allows me to think about things. An email that I need to send, I may script it in my head, and then when I get to work, I'll peck it out, and it just seems to flow. So that's a huge, aside from the cardio benefits, I find the clarity of thought when I work out in the morning to be super beneficial.
Absolutely. Now, I know we say scheduling and it seems like an easy thing to do. And with realtors, scheduling is not something new to us, right? We schedule everything else. What do you think are some of the obstacles that really prevent people from just getting started?
The biggest thing is, well, a couple of them. Obviously, time is the biggest friction point, but also the workout or the getting started has to come from within. You've got to want it. For better or for worse, if somebody suffers from an addiction, the experts will say, well, once that person realizes they need help, they'll get help. So it's similarly with workouts, it's got to come from within, because you said a moment ago, you work out at 5:30 in the morning. I like to do that as well. We live in New England. It's January. It's freezing cold. It's dark. It's really hard to hit that alarm and roll out of bed and within 20 or 15 minutes be working out. So that's got to come from within. So you need to identify the reasons you're doing this. Are you doing this for somebody else? Are you doing this to impress a friend, a spouse, a partner? Or are you just doing it for yourself? To me, it falls in the category of self-care, which is really, really critical. Again, we're in service to others. We're so busy taking care of others that we forget about ourselves. And I've mentioned this to Deanna and when we've chatted. A lot of professionals take much better care of their cars than themselves. You know, you mentioned how the brokers are constantly in their cars. When I was a kid lawyer, I bought my first new car. I used to clean the rims of the car with a toothbrush. That's how obsessed I was with it. And I wasn't doing that with myself. The first 4 years of practice, 4 or 5 years of my practice, I neglected myself, and I realized this was not sustainable. So a lot of professionals will buy that new car, and they're entitled to, they're allowed to if they have the means, but then they'll take care of that car. They'll get it detailed. They'll get it serviced. They'll change the oil religiously, but they won't do that with their own body. So it's got to come from within. So that's a real obstacle to getting out of bed and hitting wherever you want to do your workout.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about New England, you know, because that's where we are. And like you said, you wake up, you're tired, it's cold, you really don't even want to get in that car and drive to a gym. Do we really need all the fancy equipments? We know all the big names, you know, I won't say it, but the big names that are really popular right now. Everybody is thinking, I need this equipment. I need to have a home gym before I start out. Do you have any advice for people with that train of thought?
Sure. And you don't need fancy equipment. I'll give you a great 20-minute workout. If you have access to a high school track in your town, most towns have tracks near their high school. They surround the football or soccer field. You can go to that track, which is open 24 hours a day. And one loop around that track is 400 meters. So you can set your timer for 20 minutes, walk one loop, it's a quarter mile, then run one loop, then walk one loop, then run one loop. That's a perfect workout. Now that's outside, that's weather dependent, of course. An inside workout that you could do without fancy equipment is you can use a box or your steps in your basement. I do this a lot. There's a thing called a step up, which literally is 1 or 2 steps up your stairs, then back down. Then you have a thing called box jumps. You can get like a milk crate, jump up on the box, then jump back down on the floor and do that 40 times. Then do 30 sit-ups, then do 20 push-ups, and then repeat that. 50 step-ups, 40 what are called box jumps, 30 sit-ups, 20 push-ups. Do that 2 or 3 times. That's 20 minutes. That's in your house, and that is no fancy equipment. That's free. So there are a number of things that you can do in your home if you're quarantined or if the weather has isolated you. But if the weather's good, just go to your high school track. And all you need is a pair of good running shoes or a nice pair of walking shoes. And you've got a nice workout.
Absolutely. And I definitely agree because I'm not a gym person, I'll be honest. But I do work out. I try to work out at least 3, 4. My goal is typically 4, maybe 3 if I'm slacking, you know, in a particular week. But I do everything right at home, and I don't have a at-home gym. So you're absolutely correct. I use whatever it is I have, you know, it's a chair or whatever. Sometimes I use YouTube. And I find little workout routines that I could do. And my workout routines typically last 30 minutes or so, 30, 35 minutes. So yeah. You're absolutely correct on that.
Yeah. And another thing people can start thinking of. So we're in quarter 1 of 2022. And usually in Connecticut in March or April, you might see the 5-kilometer road race calendar come out. 5 kilometers is 3.1 miles. Last fall, I did the 5-kilometer, which was associated with the Hartford Marathon, which is a fantastic weekend in Hartford. The Hartford Marathon Foundation runs the marathon, the half marathon, great charity fundraiser. But I did the 5K. And the reason I say that is the course organizers allow 80 minutes for you to complete that. And it's an incredible community event. So I ran that race, but there were runners, there were people pushing strollers, there were rollerbladers, there were kids on skateboards. And 80 minutes is approximately 27 minutes per mile. And it's an incredible community event with incredible positive energy. So that may be a nice target for some folks to, do a few workouts the first 3 months of this year. And then maybe in April or May, look for a 5K. They'll be able to feed off of all this very positive energy. The running community is a very warm community. And it's kind of a nice goal, and it's very, very doable.
Absolutely. You know what? I have not done a marathon, but I think I'm going to put that on my to-do list for 2022 and, take you up on that. Absolutely.
And listen, I've run a lot of marathons, and the first marathon I trained for, I could not run 2 miles. Now, as I mentioned, I played sports in high school and college, and I worked out in law school, and then I graduated, and then I was uber focused on my career. The first 4 or 5 years of the legal career are very, very critical. So I was focused on that. I neglected myself, as I mentioned. Then I thought, like you, I said, I want to run a marathon. So I embarked on that, and I could not run 2 miles without stopping. So I've been there, and if you start small, you can build up. That first marathon I ran, Barbara, I had a 26-week training program, and it was just very, very methodical. And I mean, brokers work with schedules. You schedule things up to a closing. That's no different than a fitness plan. You have a lot of transferable skills. Lawyers create litigation plans for clients. You can transfer those skills to a fitness plan. Brokers, the same. I mean, you create plans. You have a timeline to get things done before that closing. You got to get the mortgage commitment. You got to get the home inspection. You got to get any tax liens cleared. You're scheduling those things, or you've got a plan from A to Z. You can do that if you want a goal of a 5K or a 5-mile race or a half marathon or a marathon.
So what I'm hearing is allow yourself some grace, right? If you start and things aren't going as planned, as scheduled, allow yourself that grace. And I want to take it a step further. So we've done the scheduling, we're trying to keep on track. And like you said, as busy brokers, realtors, that home inspection comes up, things come up, and we really want to say, you know what, maybe I should do the business first before taking care of my personal. Do you think, because a lot of us kind of have that same thought, do you think an accountability component should be worked in there somehow?
I am all for that. And you can find that a couple of different ways. One of them is to schedule a workout with a friend. If you know that your friend is meeting you at the high school track for that 20 or 30-minute walk run around the track, you don't want to let her or him down. When that alarm rings at 5 that your friend Barbara is going to be at the track, and she's going to be there at 5:30, and you don't want to let her down. So that builds in an accountability component. Scheduling also builds in an accountability component. And there are others who are big proponents of, if you set a goal, tell the world what your goal is. And then there's a little bit of external pressure. Well, Barbara said she was going to run a marathon, so let's check in on her. But you can also, if you do that, you can make it more of an event. I'll give you, for instance, I had a pretty audacious cycling goal for mileage last year, and I had 4 months to reach that goal, X number of miles. So what I did is I got a little playful with it. I like to ride miles in honor or in memory of something. Like 8 years ago, my nephew turned 16, so he was on the track team. So I said, you know what? For your birthday, we're going to run 16 miles, 1 mile for every year you've been alive. I do that with cycling. So what I did is I put this out on LinkedIn, and I held this, and I said, I will ride for you. The response, Barbara, was incredible. Yes, please ride 25 miles for my daughter's 25th birthday. Please ride 40 miles for my 40th wedding anniversary. So it became kind of a community event, and the miles were more purposeful. So there was an accountability thing. If you saw my post on LinkedIn and said, you know what, I've been in this business 25 years. Would you ride 25 miles for me? I would respond, yes. And then I would know, okay, I don't want to let you down. I want to run or ride those 25 miles for you. So I love the accountability conversation, but taking one step back, I love your comment about a little grace. You do need to be flexible and go easy on yourself. We're all professionals have a unique personality, a lot of them. A lot of them are alpha personalities, detail oriented. Some would say OCD, and you can get really worked up, but you've got to allow yourself some flexibility because, as you said at the outset of our chat, life interferes. You may have a child that's sick. You may have elder care. You may have obligations at your church. Things come up. People, again, are in crisis, and you being in service to them would respond. And sometimes the workout takes a back seat, and that's okay. So yeah, grace and flexibility are really important.
Great. So I'm hearing that, going back to the marathon statement, would you say that it's pretty much more like a marathon and not a sprint, the whole journey?
Absolutely. I mean, I still, and it's a mindset thing. Okay, I would have a case. I'll give you, for instance, I had a case. It was a trial in New York in 2012. That was for an accident on a barge in the Hudson River in 2004. That was 8 years, Barbara.
Wow.
That's a long time. So,
It is.
you asked about how do you get from law to wellness. In order to have a case that goes on for 8 years, you got to have some patience. And it is not always a sprint. And without a doubt, some things take a long time, excuse me. I'm sure you've had the so-called closings from hell. Issues come up, whether they are your client's fault or the other person's fault. And you can point fingers, but at the end of the day, do you want this deal to close? And how do we make this happen? So sometimes you have to downshift and realize it's not going to happen overnight.
Before I let you go, tell the people where they can learn more about your services and how you can be reached.
Sure. So right on my website, which is my name, Carl Ficks. So www.carlficks.com. And my email is carl@carlficks.com. So I'd love to hear from anybody. I'd love to help folks. I'd love to speak to any community group that your members may be a part of. I've spoken to Lions clubs, Rotary clubs, bar associations, and just share some things, some tips that have worked for me over the years.
Great. Thank you so much for all the work that you are doing, your commitment to helping people get and stay healthy. And to you out there, I really do encourage you to visit his social media pages and again, his website, carlficks.com. Thank you again for joining us, the Bridge Committee, where we are committed to bridging the gap. And you guys all have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. So appreciate you having me on.
This has been another episode of Views from Bridge. For any comments or suggestions on anything you would like to see discussed, please email us at GHAR@GHARonline.com, subject line Views from Bridge.